Hi, everybody. Let's hope that I'm just waiting for people to sit down over there. Okay, right. Well, we're going to start by showing you a video that we weren't able to show you yesterday. Our first cyber diplomat for everywhere. This is a really important position that was created during Obama's presidency. In fact, he was an advisor to Obama on cybersecurity, and now he runs the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise based in Holland, in The Hague. It was created on the initiative of the Netherlands government, which provided financing initially. And today he's working on training in cybersecurity for governments, civil society, and for corporate organizations. In Argentina, he is linked to the Organization of American States. He's been in Costa Rica and different internet schools. He was present at a meeting held by the Security Ministry a few weeks ago, and we've met with him as well. And he's a very good friend of ours. He's just sent us a message, in fact, about the different processes in the UN covering cybercrime, as we discussed yesterday. So we're going to show the video. It's subtitled by myself and Lucas. Lucas and I are we're going to show you this video now. Here we are with Christopher Painter.
Hello, my name is Chris Painter. I'm the president of the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise, a worldwide cyber capacity building organization that has many countries and civil society and academia and companies involved in it, doing the critical work of capacity building. I'll talk a little more about that in a second. I'm also the former top cyber diplomat at the U.S. State Department, I think the first one in the world. Also a federal prosecutor at one point doing cybercrime and many other roles. And I wanted to talk to you today about a couple of different areas, just briefly, in this South School for Internet Governance, something that I feel strongly about and have been supporting for years. So thank you, Olga, again for having this. One is what's happening in the UN. The UN has been devoted a lot of time and attention over the last 10 years or so to the issue of cybersecurity, and more recently to the issue of cybercrime. On the issue of cybersecurity, there have been a number of meetings, what they call groups of governmental experts, small groups of different country representatives, and more recently, something called an open-ended working group, where all the different countries in the world participate. Last time, this open-ended working group that concluded its work last year came up with a report, a consensus report, so every country agreed, that among other things endorsed the 11 norms that the UN had previously talked about. These are things like what they call norms of restraint. Norms are like rules of the road, voluntary commitments. So norms of restraint are things that you might be able to do, but you agree not to do, like attack critical infrastructure using cyber means of another country in peacetime. And every country in the world agreed to that. Now, not every country lives up to those commitments, but every country agreed to that. Don't attack the CERTs, the computer emergency response teams. They're like the ambulance of the hospital. So, and also norms of cooperation. And they talked about what's called confidence building measures. How do you cooperate? And they talked about capacity building and a number of other things, which is really important. The group of governmental experts also issued a report last year where it put a lot of meat on the bones on those various norms and why they're important and how they might work, and also why capacity building is so important to this area. So that's one set of processes. There is a new open-ended working group, again, all the countries in the world, that started this year in the UN, chaired by a Singaporean diplomat. And it's been making relatively slow progress, but steady progress. It's a 5-year process, so a long time, sort of like Star Trek, if you guys remember that, the 5-year mission. But they issued a preliminary 1-year report this year, which has made some progress. I mean, it provides a forum for countries to talk about these critical cybersecurity issues, the threats we're facing, the range of threats, and there are lots of them out there, the possible responses, what countries can do to build capacity, but also what these norms are and how they might be implemented, how you can maybe achieve greater cyber stability over time. Now, of course, the situation in the Ukraine has aggravated a lot of this because some countries are saying, well, if some countries will not obey the rules in the physical world, why are they going to obey them in the cyber world? So there's an ongoing debate, but there's been progress there. Now, separately, the UN has also been focused on cybercrime, and it has been looked at cybercrime more in procedural areas and capacity building until recently, where a resolution passed where the UN is now debating a eventual cybercrime treaty. That would be in addition to the cybercrime treaty that exists, the Budapest Convention, where a number of countries, I think over 70 at this point, have signed or are abiding by the Budapest Convention. But this would be a UN convention. And so far, there's been a lot of discussion, I think some good discussion, again, about issues about what's in and what's out, what crimes are going to be included. Are they going to be attacks just on computer networks, which I think many people want them to be, or are they going to deal with a much broader set, which I think becomes more dangerous in terms of reaching a consensus? That hasn't been completely decided yet. What the procedural aspects are, how can you get evidence more quickly? How do you deal with cybercrime overall in this UN instrument? It's I think although there was progress in this UNGGE and the open-ended working group last time, it's going to be harder in both these processes this time. For the open-ended working group, a lot of what we call the lower-hanging fruit has already been met, so it's going to be hard making further progress. On the cybercrime front, this issue of what crimes are in or out, I think is going to be a troublesome one. So, but there has been good debate and good discussions, and I participated in both of these processes, and I think that's a good thing, and it shows that the world community is really paying attention to this, and so that's good, and particularly in cybercrime, after what we've seen with ransomware and the disruptive aspect of that, it's important for these discussions to take place. Now, whether they'll reach a consensus, whether they'll be able to reach a treaty, whether they'll be able to agree on things, I think that's still undecided. They haven't yet got to text. And what happens in these UN settings is once you start getting to words on a page, that's where, as we say in the US and other places, the rubber meets the road and it becomes harder. But those are the two UN processes that are going on. And you notice that in both those processes, they mention this idea of capacity building. And so capacity building to me, if countries don't have the capacity to deal with cybersecurity and cybercrime, not only does that mean they can't combat all the bad things we're seeing on the internet, and certainly we're seeing a lot of bad things, but we can't achieve all the good things because we won't have that foundation of security. We won't have that foundation of being able to fight cybercrime and things like ransomware. So it's important to have capacity building. And turning for a moment, and I mentioned that both these UN processes and the ones in the past have addressed the idea of capacity building. There have been principles for capacity building articulated. They've been called out as important. Many countries who participate in these discussions don't yet have the capacity, either the institutions like CERTs, national CERTs or national strategies, or the ability to deal with these issues. And it's not only their problem because smart cyber criminals or nation states or other attackers will route their attacks through countries that don't have strong laws, don't have strong capabilities, to make it harder to catch them and hold them accountable. So capacity building is really critically important and it helps everybody. The Global Forum on Cyber Expertise, as I said, is this institution that now has 180 members and partners, including, as I said, really a multi-stakeholder institution that involves countries, over 60 countries, a couple dozen companies, civil society in every form, and is regionally based around the world, not just globally based in The Hague, but we have regional offices. We work with the OAS and the South America, North and South American region and the Caribbean. We work with ASEAN. We work with the African Union. We work with the Pacific Islands, and it's important to really be smarter about how we coordinate capacity building, how we up our game, how we make more of this a priority, and how we link capacity building and cyber with the larger development goals and development community. And that's something we're also working to do and holding a big meeting next year to bring that development community, the cyber capacity building community, and high-level representatives to get more attention to this issue. So capacity building is a critical issue. The GFC, if you're not more aware of it, I suggest you go to our website, thegfc.org, and you can read all about it there. If you're a country and you're not a member, there are opportunities for you to become a member. We very much like that, to grow that. If you're a company, there are opportunities. If you're academia, there are opportunities. So please look into that. And I think all this area is a space to continue to watch. There's lots of developments. There'll continue to be developments. I'm happy to see that cybersecurity is getting more of a political priority around the world in the last year, even more than it had before. And I think that's going to drive a lot of these discussions in hopefully a good way. But as I said, there's some divisive issues out there in terms of how we deal with this. So with that, thank you. Thank you, Olga. Have a great conference. I wish I could be there. And next time I will. And I really appreciate you asking me to speak.